Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. I've got Jeff Grier in my studio today, and I'm lucky because he's still just as cute now, Jeff, as you were 30 years ago when I met you. Hi, welcome to Carrie's Connoisseurs. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Carrie. It's a pleasure to be with you, and likewise. We agree. We're both cute.
You special thing. So you are, and there's his sister.
I'll just stand here all the time and hold the bottle.
Kath. Hello, Kath. Say hello to the listeners and the lookers and the. So nice to see the Griers. I forgot to bring the bottle of bubbly that we're speaking about to put in my studio today, if you can believe it. So I'm going to have to put a huge photograph of it on somewhere. Callum or Shannon or someone's going to have to make a big...
Well, there we have
it. Put it there so everyone can see it. So just for everybody to know, Jeff Grier is obviously part of the Grier family. And I picked up something last week, I think, on my email feed that came through that you are celebrating your 40th harvest at Villiera. That is just amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
1983, you bought that farm. You keep talking.
Yeah, it was in 1983, but, there's the old story of how did you get into the wine business, and our family was in the poultry industry, and luckily we're out of it now because you've seen what's happened to poultry this year.
Thank God for that. Can you imagine?
But I went to Stellenbosch University to study poultry science and ended up being told that I would be the only student in the class. And wouldn't I like to choose something else?
Who in their life chooses to study poultry farming?
So I chose viticulture and enology, and I thought, well, you can't have a chicken tasting, so let's get into the wine.
You can have a chicken and wine tasting.
You can. So I studied viticulture and enology, and that was the beginning of my love affair with wine. And I spent a year overseas after my degree, and then worked at Delheim for 3 years. And
you went to Germany,
Jeff?
Hey?
Yes, I did.
You go to Germany.
I did,
And is that where you sort of? Because I need to find out the origins of your love affair with bubbly, because you really are like. You and Peter Ferreira are the two kings of bubbles in this country.
No, well, the origins of the bubbly love affair happened when we bought Villiera as a family. So we kind of disinvested in poultry, and obviously the folks saw that the next generation was more interested in wine, and we bought Villiera in 1983. But myself and my cousin Simon were now in charge of Villiera, and we thought, well, we have to have a product that we could associate ourselves with, something that was going to be our focus category. And at the end of 83, we had the good fortune of meeting a guy from Champagne, a young guy who was basically my age, Jean-Louis Denois.
Yeah,
and he came from the Champagne house, Denois Pere Fils, in a little village called Cumier, which is just outside Epinay. And he recognized that, Simonsuk was already making bubbly, but he said, why is no one focusing on bubbly in South Africa, bottle fermented bubbly? And he said, he comes from a family of champagne producers, and he had access to all this know-how, and he was prepared to offer us access to that know-how in return for a royalty. And on the day we met him, we decided on a royalty agreement, which basically meant that we only started paying once we started selling, and it was a percentage of turnover. And I had the opportunity to work for 4 vintages in Champagne, and that was at the time when it wasn't so easy for South Africans to spend time in France. And he used to come out here, and we had a very an incredible 10-year royalty agreement, which we extended for 5 years because we benefited so much from it. Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. He basically got caught up in a succession problem in his own champagne business. His father wanted to pass it on to 3 kids, and only he was interested.
Oh.
And he had to then buy the others out, which he couldn't afford. So he actually, his father sold the business, and he went down south to a place called Limoux, which is the second biggest appellation for bubbly in France.
Yes.
And he started making bubbly there. And I used to visit him there because by that time we were friends. And
you should have bought the champagne farm with him.
We
Can you
couldn't afford
imagine?
it. But we basically fell in love with the south of France and bought a vineyard there. And we
Well,
do
should
make
we-
some
should
bubbly
we-
in the south of France.
Should we take the opportunity to tell everybody, remind them that you and Lynn have also got a beautiful little winery in Roussillon.
That's
France.
correct, yeah. And we make some bubbly
and I
there.
was chatting to someone the other day, and I think it must be almost 20 years that you've had that. How long have you been in
So
France?
we've had that for 17 years.
Yeah, I
We
thought
bought that
so.
in 2006. And, if you add that to my vintages here, we're talking 57 vintages in the Grier family wine business.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's just. Have you still got parents? Are either of your folks still alive?
No, both my parents have passed away.
I just
But I've
thought
got
your
some
dad
grey
was
hair.
Robin. Hey, yeah, me.
That's
but
right.
that happened early on. Your dad was Robin, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
And there's another Robin in the Grier family, isn't there?
Yeah, Kathy, my sister who's involved with us here, her son is Robin. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So this whole thing is hugely Grier infested. I mean, you can't get away from the Griers. But I just need to remind everybody that aside from anything else, I just love the way you all fly quietly under the radar. You always have. You're almost like Enid Blyton's perfect family. Did you ever read Famous Five, Secret Seven? You all have fun and you all do it so well and you do what's right. That's my thing about the Griers in the industry. And I have a sort of a special thing in my filing cabinet in my head for all my wine farmers that I love with my heart. And yours is in that filing cabinet. It's simple. It's under the radar. It's modest. It's humble. It's successful, way beyond anybody really knows, I think. And it's got this quiet modesty about it that I absolutely love. So I'm going to shout from the rooftops about all the things that you have achieved.
We need that because maybe we are too humble and we don't say enough about what we do and have achieved. Maybe
So tell us, just
for marketing, you need to do more.
I'm going to market for you this whole year. We're going to do a series on Grier bragging. So start bragging like right now.
Look, the one thing that people don't really understand about us is that although we're quite a big family wine business, you tend to kind of get overlooked for the smaller guys, the new guys. But we've probably been one of the most innovative wine companies in South Africa. For example, every single bubbly category, apart from the very first wine, but we were the first to get involved in a joint venture with a champagne grower, a royalty agreement. We were the first to do a Rosé Cup Classique. We were the first to do a Blanc de Blanc, which was also a Brut Sauvage. We were the first to do a Prestige Cuvée, and we were the first to do a Light Cup Classique.
And you went organic.
And we have this incredible sustainability reputation. And we're not officially organic, but we are very, very focused on sustainability, both environmentally and socially, because we basically don't use any insecticide. We've planted about 120,000 indigenous trees in our game sanctuary, which is an add-on tourism thing that we do. But those tree planting efforts have actually basically neutralized our carbon footprint. But, we control insects and that sort of thing naturally. But we're also very careful with our water usage. We harvest all our rainwater off the cellar roofs. We generate all our power when the sun is shining by means of solar panels.
do.
And,
Showed a lot more perspicacity than most.
Exactly.
We didn't do anything about solar power here, and we're all in the dark at the station.
Yeah. We have 1,200 square meter panel which generates about 300 kilowatt on a day like today, which is a sunny day here. So winter's a problem, nighttime's a problem, and our next step is to put in batteries. We're already talking to the suppliers for an order, but the battery storage is obviously the expensive part, so we haven't gone there.
Yes.
We haven't gone there yet, but with Eskom as unreliable as it is, we need the battery storage. Yeah.
Yes. So Jeff, your harvesting has not been as interrupted, I'm assuming, as most people. I've been wetting myself for the wine industry with this load shedding that we're having, because
it's massively disruptive.
Yeah. How do you sit in the cellar with no power, and you've got however many tons of grapes coming in, and you really, really need stuff to be doing, you know?
So we also have a generator which burns diesel, but we have a modern generator which is more fuel efficient. But our solar can supply all of our requirements, but it also helps the generator if we need a bit more power. The generator does contribute. So there's never a break in power here. And but we still get the cuts, and sometimes the load shed is right in the middle of a press putting pressure on, and you get pumps and motors that are stopped under pressure, and it does damage to equipment. But look, let's keep it positive. We're not going to.
Let's forget about those woes. We are boer maak 'n plan. We've always made a plan in the past.
Exactly.
It's your 40th harvest, and what is the harvest looking like? Just before we go any further, because you must have picked already, hey?
We've virtually finished our bubbly harvest, which is about 60% of our volume, and it's looking great. I mean, look, it's been quite hot, but dry, so we've got very healthy fruit. And we've been working with an Italian company for the last 5 years to introduce a new pruning system, which is called branching. And it basically allows the vines to grow old gracefully. So it's a system that allows for better sap flow in the vine, and it allows for better bunch positioning and better canopy management. And basically, after 5 years of introducing this system, we're ending up with yields on our older vineyards that are 15 to 20% higher than before. And this is a massive plus.
Could we turn this into a tablet for women my age, or maybe a face cream, or something like that?
Absolutely, we need this branching system for.
Let's have a Villiera branching system for females, or for people, for humans.
No, look, it's all about tender, loving care. So I think that we can do with our women, right?
We can do that. In fact, we should all be doing.
Exactly.
Jeff, talk to me about and we were busy about to say the yields are up, but is the quality up too?
So we're very happy with quality. I mean, the heat ensures healthy fruit, which is a big plus, especially in bubbly. But you do get a drop in acidity, which is not ideal for bubbly. But, we start picking early. So all the stuff we picked until about a week ago had good acidity. And now it's starting to be probably a little bit on the low side. But as you know, in South Africa, if you have an acid problem, there is the possibility to add some acid.
You can reacidify. You've never really had to. And I must tell you that sometimes I quite like that softer acid. Sometimes it's quite nice.
Absolutely. I mean, excessive acid is a problem, especially for me, but maybe not so much you. But as you get older, acid's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't like my bubblies to be too acidic. And it's one of the reasons that I love Villiera's bubbly, because, listen, there's some hectic acid that you have to have on specific bubblies just to make them fit the mold, Yeah,
well, Champagne itself, and they have high acids. And as a result, if you go there for a week, your body's tingling by the end of it,
No, it's terrible, and you want to pull your teeth out. It's awful.
Yeah.
But on balance, the Villiera, certainly all your tradition bubblies that people really should be familiar with by now because they're all over the place, They've got a beautiful soft, they've got that nice bright acidity, but it's soft in your mouth. I don't like that stuff that rips the enamel off your teeth.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy if your acid levels are going down a bit. We'll
Because
leave that at that.
if you extend that philosophy, there's always the opportunity to balance your regular bubblies with what we call dosage or liqueur d'expédition.
Yeah.
But that dosage gives you opportunity to balance the acidity. But if you make a bone dry or a brut sauvage like we do for our brut natural, the acid can be softened by the malolactic fermentation, which is an acid fermentation replacing malic with half the amount of lactic, which also results in a bit of softening,
I don't want anybody to be drinking brut sauvage. I think that everybody's embarrassed to say that they love sweeter stuff. So I'm going to tell everybody now that you've just released your Nectar.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you've released it. I haven't tasted it yet. Corinne brought it around to me yesterday because she knew that I was talking to you today. And I got so busy that I didn't get round to tasting it. But tell us about your Nectar and what brought you to finally make me a Nectar. I love demi-sec.
Okay, so we've actually been producing a little bit of demi-sec for quite a few years. On the woolly shelves, you would have seen a Villiera demi-sec for years.
I shop at Norman Goodfellow.
And Norman Goodfellow have insisted that we started making a Villiera Nectar. So that's part of the reason why we have come out with a Nectar. But we've had experience, and until now this is the only category where we haven't been like the first. But we have been shown by one or two other producers that nectar is very important in South Africa today. There's an emerging market that loves nectar, which is basically demi-sec, which is obviously a slightly richer, fruitier, sweeter style of Cap Classique. And, that style is something that sells really well, especially if you package it beautifully. And this is the way we've done it. We've put a sleeve on it, and we call it Villiera Pearls of Nectar. So, nectar is basically the name everyone understands to mean something sweeter, richer. And we call it Pearls of Nectar to basically give you that understanding that there are these bubbles in the wine that rise to the surface, and they look like pearls. We always talk about the pearls or the stars. But, on Villiera, we also have, plenty of natural plants and flowers that have these little pearls of nectar on the flowers. And so to sort of draw attention to the bubble and to our natural way of farming, we call it Pearls of Nectar. And we think it's quite an attractive name, and it gives us a little point of difference. And it's already selling really well. We put it on the market in December, but we didn't have enough prepared to even do any marketing on it. So we're only starting with that now. We're sending out information, press releases, and that's how you heard of it. So it's basically really coming onto the market now. And we're very happy to have joined this nectar category, and we think that it's going to become an important product in our range.
Jeff, tell me about the nectar. You've made a Villiera Nectar.
Yes, we have, and it's the one category where we were not the first to make, and we've been making nectar for quite a while. We have experience with it, and we've seen that some of our competitors in the bubbly business have done extremely well with nectar. So, there's a new emerging market for a richer, fruitier, slightly sweeter style of bubbly. And, it's the ideal kind of bubbly for just enjoying a drink, and it goes really well with dessert, but it's a fun style of bubbly. But, the big thing about the nectar is that it needs to be packaged beautifully, and it needs to be jazzed up a bit.
Have you still got that bottle in front of you?
Yeah, so this is the way we've done it.
It's gorgeous. It's so pretty. And the other thing that I saw on the analysis sheet is that it's not hugely sweet. It's got 30-something grams of sugar, hey?
That's right, 38 grams of sugar.
It's not wildly sweet, which is gorgeous. If you make it icy cold.
Yes.
On a Sunday morning, I always tell everybody, icy cold, Sunday mornings, scrambled eggs and demi-sec. There's nothing nicer.
Yeah, and, everyone calls the sweeter version of bubbly nectar, but it's basically like a demi-sec, and we decided to call it pearls of nectar, and the pearls relate to the bubbles. The bubbles rising to the surface are the pearls of this nectar. And
what did you make it out of? Largely Chardonnay or what?
We made it out of largely Chardonnay, yeah, because it's mostly a white grape style of bubbly, but Chardonnay is the main variety, yeah.
I can't wait to taste it. I'm going to put it in my fridge when I get home from these studios, and I'm going to have it over the weekend, and I'm going to send you a message. But
Excellent.
Jeff, moving on from there, I know that it's quite a long time ago now already that you and I did all these kind of things, but I think you did a thesis when you did your Cape Wine Masters on the effect of champagne or the part that champagne plays in South African MCC industry. Have you made your bubbly with an express intention to emulate champagne? Or what was in the back of your head when you were making your first bubbly at Villiera?
Yeah, look, my thesis was about the role of champagne in the development of Métaux Champenoise
MCC,
around the
that's
world.
right.
Yeah,
Something like that, I remember.
Which basically involved the South African connection as well. So there were a couple of champagne producers that came out. There was a MUM connection with Kroner many years ago. But, we had this connection with Jean-Louis Denois. And, the thing is that most people that drink and enjoy bottle fermented bubbly basically, there's a noise. Basically,
You know what that is? That is a storm in Johannesburg. As I'm sitting here in my studio, the storm is going, it's like Hurricane Annie rushing through this building.
This is a fun podcast. So basically, people that enjoy bottle fermented bubbly, especially when we started in the 80s, they were the same people that loved champagne. So, our view was that we wanted to offer a replacement for champagne in those days. And so we wanted to do it right, so that's why we focused on the champagne style. And that's why I spent so much time in Champagne, and I still go there. And, we feel that the whole Cup Classique Association and, most of the producers have adopted the same philosophy about bringing a little bit of a South African element, but at the same time recognizing that they're trying to please the same guys that love champagne.
Yeah.
And this is the bottom line. So we do things like using Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and a bit of Pinot Meunier. We do things in terms of production, like picking by hand, whole bunch pressing, fraction separation, like they do in Champagne. And we do things like looking at the analysis, which should be equivalent to what happens in Champagne. And then we also work with reserve wine and dosage and the rest of it, which is all
and
champagne.
You leave yours on the lees for quite a long time as well. And I always
we
try
do,
to explain
and that
to
extended
people,
lease aging is critical. Perfected by time, we say.
It's been brilliant, and at the same time, everybody always says to me, "Oh, why do you have to pay so much money for champagne?" And we should actually be charging the same money for our MCCs as we're paying for Moet and Verve and what have you. Listen, we maybe haven't put as much marketing spend in as LVMH have, but it's a capital-intensive business, the art of MCC, whether it's called Champagne or Method Champenoise or Method Cup Classique or whatever. It's blooming expensive. Who wants to put in an investment and only be able to realize a return on that investment some 5-6 years later in some cases, or even 10 in other cases if you're releasing a late vintage, So it's a very, very labor and love and capital intensive product, and Villiera just is one of our biggest contributors to our gorgeous bubbly. I think we make fabulous bubbly in South Africa.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree.
I really do.
Champagne have put themselves on a pedestal, and they've marketed themselves into a position where they can ask higher prices. But as a result, the grape prices are a lot higher. We benefit by slightly lower grape prices. But one day, Cap Classique will be similarly priced to champagne, because prices will go up. And
do you make a bubbly at Domaine Grier?
We do.
We do.
We do.
Tell me
But
about
the Domaine Grier bubbly is slightly different. It's, Roussillon is sandwiched between Limoux and Cava, which is the bubbly growing area north of Spain, in the Catalonian area. And we actually in French Catalonia, and one of the varieties that the Catalans grow both in the Cava region and in the French Catalonian area is a variety called Macabeo, or Macabeu as they call it in France. And we have plenty of that. But we also have a Chardonnay vineyard, which is what they make Crémant de Limoux from. So we actually have a sort of a champagne Cava crossover style of
like
bubbly.
A hybrid,
yeah, like a hybrid. So we make this bubbly from Macabeu and Chardonnay, and it's really popular in the area.
Do you bring any of it to South Africa?
We do. We have it in our tasting room, and we sell it to people. Some people love it here. But, the Villiera bubbly is what they really come to buy here. Yeah. But the French bubbly is just an added interest factor.
I actually, when I grow up and become a really big girl, I want to come and live in Roussillon with you and your family. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is.
Are you feeling like you're gravitating towards there for retirement? Are you ever going to retire?
I kind of reached retirement age last year. But in our succession plan, I've committed to 3 years, albeit at a slightly reduced level.
Pace. Good for you.
Pace. So, just a percentage less. And I will spend more time overseas. I have kids in the UK, and so, I need to go there. But I will be visiting Domaine Grier for sure. I'm not sure that I have a successor at Villiera, but I'm not sure I have a successor at Domaine Grier. So we'll see what happens there.
You've got really clever children from memory. You've got accountants and lawyers and rocket scientists. What are they all doing? And I know that there's some other Grier cousins that are in South Africa that are in the cellar with you. You've got an Alexander, haven't you?
So I have an Alexander. He's my cousin's son, who is taking over the winemaking role from me. He's already made it more comfortable for me and allows me to delegate and spend less time in the cellar.
That means, in Englishman's, layman's terms, that means more time for Jeff Grier to be naughty and party, I think.
Exactly. That's my plan. But, so my kids, the one's a CA, but she works in basically a headhunting firm as a CA, and I have a son who's in financial services, but they still have this strong connection to Villiera and love being involved, and I think they still nurture some idea of coming back here one day, but I'm not holding out any hope for that at this stage.
I don't think our kids, I've also got a child who lives overseas. I don't think our kids are ever coming back here, sadly, other than for holidays.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, that's the way of the world. Is Kathy's son, is her Robin going into the business, and is Alexander Simon's son?
No, Alexander is David's son.
David's son.
Simon has a son who is also a CA, but he's very enthusiastic about the business. Okay. And Kathy's son, Robin, has basically gone in the marketing direction. And
like
he's like his mom. And he could very well be involved, yeah. But they're all young. Fantastic. They need to find their feet, get experience, and our family constitution says 5 years of experience outside of the business before they can think of coming in. But that's
you need to write a recipe book. because your family recipe, whatever it was, it had just the right amount of everything in it. Your wine also has the right amount of everything in it. The whole
Thank you,
Grier
Kerry.
story is just balanced and gorgeous. How much am I going to pay for this pearls of nectar, do you think?
You are going to
Around
pay the same amount that you pay for a bottle of Villiera Tradition, which is about 175
200
on the
odd.
shelf, somewhere around there, 175, 180, yeah.
So do we think that we can tell everybody to rush out and buy a couple of cases for Valentine's Day? Because it does seem a bit perfect for Valentine's Day, doesn't it?
Definitely. We've put in the stock. We're preparing for a Valentine's Day rush. And
Are you making
our
pearls?
promotions are connected to Valentine's Day.
Okay, so we just got in the sweet spot. Are you going to make a pink nectar ever?
The answer is yes.
It's like,
But you've jumped the gun.
It's
You've
like
jumped
a
the gun.
fizzy packet. It's like a fizzy packet of pink marshmallows. I love it. I love pink fizz.
We haven't done it yet, but we are under pressure to do it. And whenever we feel pressure to do something, we know there's demand, so the answer is yes.
That's fantastic. So if I read between the lines, is there a little splosh of something muscatish in there?
There is, because our view with Nectar is that people expect it to be richer and fruitier, and the little bit of muscat in the dosage helps to just give it a little bit of a fruit lift.
That's why I asked, because all the best demis from around the world have all got that little splosh in their dosage, haven't they? So I'm very pleased to hear that. So we got, again, the recipe is 150,000% spot on. It's just perfect. What else do we need to know from Villiera, Jeff? Jeff, what's up?
No, I mean...
Stuff you're allowed to tell with your clothes on.
No, look, the plan here is to focus more and more on bubbly. And, more and more it's difficult to sell a big range of wines. We've always been associated with quite a mix. And in our succession planning and so on, we've recognized that bubbly is our strength. It's where our business can be most successful. And that's why we've added the nectar, and, we want to add a rosé nectar in the future. And that means that we can definitely turn our business into a 70% sparkling wine business.
100%. You do what makes you money.
Absolutely.
Really, that's what you have to do.
And it's what we know and love as well, because money is not the thing that really drives us. It's the passion and the excitement of doing what we love.
Helps. The money helps.
But the
you
money
sleep
helps,
at night.
because if you don't make the money, you might not be there next year to continue making the bubbly.
I know. And talk to me about the demand for South African bubbly overseas. Are you exporting quite a lot?
Look, the demand was low 5 years ago, and interestingly, during COVID, the demand increased, and it was because there was more and more interest in South Africa from our traditional markets. Partly because there was a bit of sympathy for all the alcohol bans that we were experiencing. And that sympathy buying created a demand for a lot of wines, but particularly bubbly. And, it stuck. And people have discovered that we can make bottle-fermented bubbly that is up there with some of the best in the world at an affordable price.
Yeah.
And so we've actually developed markets that we never had before.
I think that, COVID is probably one of the biggest heists that the world will ever have seen in the history of mankind. But we can save that for another discussion when we get drunk together one day on lots of bubbly. But one of the good things that came out of COVID for me is that everybody started to drink more, because we were all sitting at home, working from home, trying to work. If we were in the liquor trade, we weren't allowed to work unless we did it illicitly.
Yeah.
And people like you and me who were under the spotlight, can you imagine Norman Goodfellows having been caught trading illicitly during COVID? So we didn't. But a lot of people did, as we know. But it did encourage people. They had time at home. They were
They also stocked up
engaging
before
with
the
each
bans,
other.
you know. Most people knew a day before the ban and stocked up.
They stocked up and they were spending time at home. They were forced to get to know each other again. I mean, I think people who'd been married for 35 years suddenly realized who they were living with, and that it was quite nice to share a bottle of bubbly or red wine or whatever. I think it was good for the liquor industry in many, many ways. Not that I'm encouraging alcoholism or anything.
Yeah,
but
what else happened was that during COVID, you weren't supposed to buy and drink alcohol. So there was a massive growth in alcohol-free wine and alcohol-free other products. But we realized that there's a massive niche out there for alcohol-free wine. And
I think you only do that under extreme duress. Don't you think?
I do. We're not planning to put a Villiera product, but
please.
but there interestingly, there's a health element, there's a designated driver element, and there's a religious element. So there are people that want alcohol-free wines, and why not? The technology to make those kind of wines has improved to such a level that you can actually have a half-decent alcohol-free wine, or at least low-alcohol wine.
It's a bit like a sort of pizzaless pizza for me, but I do get it. I do get that a lot of people, and I think that a lot of the youth, remarkably, when you consider how much we drank when we were young, a lot of the youth are not drinking at all.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I feel sorry for them, but there are a lot of them that aren't. So
maybe they use other stuff,
Well, that's probably why I do feel sorry for them as well, because there's nothing like gorgeous wine when you're young.
No, absolutely, and it's social.
Everybody needs it.
You must see my social life. At least my wife doesn't drink as much as me, and she can drive me home.
I interrupted you after having asked you what is new at Villiera. Are you hinting to me that you're going to make alcohol-free bourbon?
No, we might do it, but under a different brand.
Okay.
And so obviously there's a big succession plan, so that will have to roll out. but yeah, I mean, Villiera is going to go strong and go to new heights. And,
so Villiera's going nowhere. We don't have to worry that the Griers are moving abroad forever and we're going to lose our Bubbles King. Kathy's not going anywhere. Her son's getting involved in the business. Everything's happening just like it should. Jeff, You're a gorgeous man. I love you. I love your family. I love your product.
Yeah.
We're going to put pictures of this stuff all over the place. And you and I are going to catch up a lot more often this year.
Wonderful,
and we're going to brag about Villiera because there's lots to brag about.
Well, we love you and people like you that have that enthusiasm for our product. Thank you.
We do. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll all drink Villiera Pearls of Nectar on the 14th of February.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kerry. I'll toast you on the day.
Goodbye. Thank you,
Bye. Cheers.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.